Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? Happy Pride Month, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said. A look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm Alvin King, and I am really happy to be here with you guys tonight. I hope everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I know I'm glad that we're getting some sun. I know that I'm glad that we're getting to the end of cicada time. But we are so excited about this show tonight, and we are so glad that you guys are joining us. Any weekend plans, anybody? I know I do, but to be honest with you, some of mine have been halted. My inner Alvin told me not to do something, and I did it. And I went to a place and someone ran into my car, y'all. I cannot believe it. But anyway, as God would have it, as life would have it, we have insurance. But anyway, we have a wonderful show for you tonight. We have a special guest on the show, Mr. DeMarco Majors. He is with us tonight, and he is going to bear it all, ladies and gentlemen. I will give a formal introduction of Mr. Majors when we are about to bring him on. But right now, I'm going to bring on our co-host for He Said, Mr. Vash Mr. Jaques Whitfield, and Mr. Saladin Dare. How you guys doing?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Hey.
Happy Pride Month.
The whole house is here. How you guys doing?
I know, I love this.
Well, Alvin, you said DeMarco's going to bear it all. Ready to get some popcorn and the beer?
Yeah. Do what you have to do. Okay. just stick around for the conversation. But hopefully you guys have had a wonderful week, and we are about to again have a great show tonight. Anything going on for that? I guess launching Pride Month that you guys want to mention or anything like that?
Not for me. This week, I'm just going to rest. I feel like I've made a cross-country trek from California to DC. Now I'm in North Carolina. So I think I'm just going to chill this first weekend of Pride and just kind of catch my breath from all the travel.
I'm really actually excited about how the news media are really like covering it this year. For some reason, it seems like it's being covered more this year than and maybe not, but to me it seems like it's being covered more, mainly because I guess we didn't really celebrate Pride last year. Or
that's true.
Yeah, so I guess that they're really stepping in and doing what they have to do. So again, we have an action-packed show for you tonight, and our special guest, Mr. DeMarco Majors. For those of you who are not familiar with Mr. Majors, he is openly gay. He is a true Renaissance man with experience as an actor, a producer. He's a model, activist, a TV host, and a motivational speaker and life coach. And out of all that, he's also a former pro basketball player. And he's going to, bear it all. And he has lived a truly remarkable journey. And DeMarco, remarkable. He has truly lived a remarkable journey, and we are so happy that he's going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit more because he hasn't quite gotten into our room yet. So I want to make sure that we give him some time to get set up and get connected with us. But yeah.
Because I gotta say, I'm happy that it's June. I'm happy that it's Pride. I love Pride, but Pride's a very triggering time for me because so often people talk about Pride and they're only referring to, or they often refer to like Stonewall as being like this origination and source and, the start of Pride. I mean, people often say things like, the first Pride was a riot in reference to Stonewall. And very few people really realize that Pride, the name, really kind of originated from a group that started in Los Angeles. And Pride itself is an acronym. Like it really should always be capitalized as capital P-R-I-D-E. And it actually stands for Personal Rights through defense and education, PRIDE.
Wow.
So, you know,
I did not know that.
Yes, well, you know, we're always giving you new information here on He Said.
Dropping knowledge.
Yes,
Right.
always. And so, you know, when I see pride and it's not capitalized, it seems like it's referring to pride as in proud, as opposed to actually pride being personal rights through defense and education.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, Vash, because pride also triggers me in a way. And it's, you know, we'll talk more about it when DeMarco joins, but in an article that he was featured in last year, he sort of mentioned how, you know, in the gay community, we talk about love is love and equality for all. But I find that there's a lot of racism within the gay community, and that's something that's not really touched upon. And I've also found myself in a plethora of scenarios in which I'm a fly in a bowl of buttermilk, and I've experienced that racism. So I live my life as an openly gay man, and I'm very proud of that. So I feel like I celebrate pride every month of the year, every day of the year. But it is triggering for me because of the racism that exists within the gay community, and it's something that's not really discussed quite often.
Yeah, I hope in the growth opportunity of what has happened since 2020 and all the things that have gone on, that I hope that there is a re-engagement. Vash, I love what you shared in terms of the true meaning of pride. And since there's all this renewed emphasis now around the globe of being really more socially conscious, more racial equality and social justice, that will be embraced by the gay community, because I think, Saladin, you're absolutely correct. All of us have experienced that within, you know, Team Rainbow, that, you know, all that glitters isn't gold, right? And there are challenges even within a community that is perceived to be very progressive and very welcoming and inclusive. I've had different experiences, and one of those differences, or one of the contrasts, has been that rude awakening that, oh my God, this sounds like, you know, I'm talking to somebody who's a member of like the John Birch Society, the Ku Klux Klan, and how are you wearing a pride flag? I mean, what's the disconnect there, right?
Exactly.
I come from I shouldn't say I come from I actually fell into the circuit world, the circuit party world, in my, I'm going to say, late 30s.
Did you do the fans? Did you have the fans and everything?
Actually, no, but that was truly a part of my era. That was something I never knew how to work the flag twirlers and all that kind of stuff. But now they're in church. Okay.
Oh, right. The praise singers.
So the praise teams are using them now. So, but no, I never really got acclimated to that. But when you were talking about the racism that exists in the gay community, I think one of the most memorable that I've ever experienced it was going to a party in Palm Springs. I think it's called the Winter Party or the White Party. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was the White Party, and because, you know, me and my partner at that time we were basically breaking ground, going to, you know, two Black men walking up into this not all Black party, and we getting asked questions like, "Are you with him?" You know what I'm saying? Like, really? Like, you two a couple up in here? So that was my first time of really dealing with the whole issue of racism as it pertains to, and because I never really saw it anyplace else where I paid attention to it. But I just got a word that our guest of honor is here, ladies and gentlemen. So let me go ahead and give him the formal introduction. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. DeMarco Majors joining us tonight. Mr. Majors, actually, he's on set right now. DeMarco, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm great. Sorry for the delay. Goodness gracious.
No, it is, you know, when you live, sometimes things happen. So we're in that world where we don't even make excuses. We're just like this. We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here. Happy Pride Month. You know what I mean?
Look at all the smiling faces. Yeah, we're happy.
You know,
you didn't even got to say nothing.
It's funny because when I'm so excited about something, I forget how infectious your energy becomes with everything around you. So it starts to affect everything. And I'm like, why is this not working? I'm like, well, you're super excited. Your energy's everywhere. So things aren't moving.
You know what, DeMarco? I'm gonna keep. I felt what you just said. I felt what you just said in a place that I wasn't expecting to feel it. So I received what you just said, and I'm going to actually every time I get ready to sign on to this show, I'm going to remember what you just said, and I think it's going to help me. So, hey, Annette, let's say hello to some of these folks who are joining us tonight for this conversation with DeMarco. We got Derwin, Bobby Edwards is here. How you doing? Rod is here. I've never seen Rod. Hey, Rod, how you doing? And then
Rod McCullum, yes.
Keith is here.
I don't know.
Rosalie's here. Yeah.
Rose is here. Okay.
Yes.
DeMarco, we have people who join us every week. Keith Brandt is here. These people are like, all I have to say is, and when I say these people, I'm saying it with love. They are so embracing of what we're doing with this show. And we really, really do appreciate them being on here with us every Friday night. So can we get on with the show? Because I want to hear from DeMarco. I've been waiting for 2 months to talk to DeMarco. So I want to go ahead and get right to it. So I am going to do you the honor, DeMarco, with my first question. And my first question for you is, DeMarco, for our listeners, introduce DeMarco Majors to them.
Yes, now, take a sip of the tea, honey. Take a sip of the tea.
That's totally unfair because it puts me on the hot seat. Like I got to unbutton my shirt already.
Well, okay. Hold on.
So excited for you to be with you guys.
Oh,
hey, Bobby.
Okay, we just do that. Go ahead.
I can share. Hey, hello, everyone. I am DeMarco Majors. I am from Evansville, Indiana. Ex-professional basketball player, activist, model, author, artist. I just love saying, an extraordinary Black man. That's who I am. And I also own my own Major Way Strategic Life Coaching, which is a strategic life coaching practice where I help people heal trauma, relationships. I do spiritual development, integrated wellness, and strategic coaching, where we create your goals, help you define and discover the limiting beliefs around your goals. We uproot them and help you get on towards living that dream and living that goal. That's a little bit about me.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet DeMarco Majors. Okay.
Hey, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some friends who have logged in from Pasadena, California. My friends Barry and Van. Hey, guys, welcome. So glad you could join us. DeMarco, can you tell us, how did you become a groundbreaking athlete dealing with homophobia and prejudice within the professional sports arena?
That is a great question. Honestly, I didn't know that what I was doing was groundbreaking. When you've lived in trauma and you've lived in the hood and you've lived through turmoil, going through prejudice and homophobia in basketball is like a cakewalk. So I didn't believe that it was groundbreaking. Okay. However, being in that arena allowed me to see where the pain was. And it taught me how to have empathy. And because I was able to see that, then I was able to love the person before. And excuse me when I say love the person before we get into a fight. Because that's particularly kind of what happens, because it became violent for me at different points in my career. But as far as groundbreaking, just, my God, I still can't believe that I was fortunate enough to be athletic enough to play professional basketball and to have been born in Indiana. Because when you're born Black, when you're born poor, when you're born gay, and you get to touch and see your dream, Indiana prepared me for racism. It prepared me for prejudice. It prepared me for turmoil. So when 2 and 3 came at me, I told them they better go get 5, 6, 7, 8, because I'm good. Come on. And that's not about being arrogant. It's just that at that point in time, I knew that the enemy wanted my territory, and I fought for it, and I'm not giving it to them.
Nice. So you've actually mentioned trauma a few times. what trauma are you referring to?
Woo. All right, we're gonna have to go to somebody else because you asking these tough questions too early.
You said you would answer anything, and then I'm inviting everybody else to ask some good questions.
We only got 40 minutes. Okay, we got 40, and we're gonna pull it out of you. Okay, so here we go.
When I say trauma is in I had dealt with abandonment. I dealt with abandonment and what I thought was abandonment as well, because not everything that I didn't know everything was a part of that trauma or being traumatized by it. So there was abandonment. I dealt with, hey, I was given away on Christmas Day when I was 13. So I had to deal with that. There was, in my adult career, when I came out and I was playing pro ball, there was sexual assault, there was depression, there was anxiety, there was addiction. So I've dealt with a lot of different traumas stemming from youth and trauma bonding. And that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that I had trauma bonded with the coaches of my team because I was used to, being yelled at and being screamed at and people saying this is tough love, but love doesn't have to be tough. And so because of the trauma in my life, I bonded with those, kind of over-functioning people that were abusive verbally abusive. So that was part of the trauma that I was dealing with. And then as a professional athlete, you go through performance anxiety, you go through depression, you're anxious all the time. And no one talks about it because they don't care.
Right.
It took a 17-year-old like Naomi Osaka to actually protect her peace because she had the wherewithal to say, hey, I'll eat that $1,500. I'll eat that, but I'm protecting my peace from you.
Right.
Wow. That's
We're
great.
going to get into her and that a little bit later for sure. But thank you so much for sharing, some of the details of your trauma.
Yeah,
I have a quick question about that question about during your time in professional sports. Did they know? Were you out at that time, or were you still, or were you ever in the closet? I don't want to assume that, but were you out?
I was out.
Okay.
Let me just say this. I was open the very first time that I got to play pro ball right out of college. I actually was entering into the community literally within the same month. My cousin took me from San Francisco. We went to Black Gay Pride here in Atlanta. And during Black Gay Pride here, I left Malibu Beach, where it used to be, to jump on a plane to go to Argentina, to go to Miami to train. And then we went to Argentina and Brazil to play ball. Okay. And then the year after that, I was at the Gay Games in 2002. I'm the first person in history that's been recorded. There could have been other people, but the first person in history to be recruited from the Gay Games, the Gay Olympics, to play a professional sport.
That's how that.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's
okay.
I have a question that may lighten the mood. DeMarco, how did it feel to be selected as one of Out Magazine's top 100 most influential gay individuals shaping our community? How did that feel?
There's two truths to this. I didn't know what it meant because back in 2007, 2008, I wasn't really a part of the community in such a way that I understood these awards and different things and why they give you these awards. Once I understood, and then I knew that, then I heard that Jennifer Hudson's going to be there and all this other stuff. I was so excited because, that was back then when she was, doing her thing. And what truly happened was I got to the studio and I seen all these different people going in there that I had seen, on shows or, just all these different things. And everyone was in these beautiful tuxedos and gowns, because they only have a few people there when you're, about to do your shoot and everything. And they said, oh my God, it's so great to meet you, DeMarco Majors. And I could not wait to put on that tuxedo and stand there, like everybody else looked so dapper and clean. They came out with a hanger and brought me some underwear. I said, for real?
Yeah. Were they black and white underwear at least?
No, it was the old school, like 1910,
Tidy
retro underwear
whities.
from Rome. It was like the first underwear before Jesus. It was just like, and when I seen that, the people pleaser in me at that time smiled and was like, you should just be happy to be here. But then as you go along, when you go along, you start to realize that within this community, in order for certain people in this community, non-Black people, to accept you in this community, they have to sexualize you.
Exactly.
So it started to feel like, yes, it started to feel like, do you really believe that I'm deserving? Because not in an arrogant way, but I seen, some people were another gay actor, another gay artist, another. Here I was a part of being the first. So when we are being the first, it's not just about being the first, but it's about being effective. Mm-hmm. So let's put the right foot forward in its right representation.
Yeah.
And thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for the honor. Thank you for, acknowledging my looks, but it wasn't my looks that went and got the work ethic to get to play ball and to be in those places.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It was a hard work ethic. So it was a double-edged sword. Now I can look at it and laugh and see it in different ways, and I'm so grateful for it. I can now, because I've removed stigma of trauma and people pleasing, mm-hmm. and I can now accept it in such a way that I can actually celebrate myself.
So DeMarco, let me ask you, what does being out mean to you?
Being out means to me that I understand free will, because free will is supposed to lead to freedom. And when I learned how to define freedom for myself, I could take away the communication with the perfectionist and be free to do some dumb shit and not put myself, in the place of learning how to entertain versus dwell. Right. Mm-hmm. So being out means that, not that I could just, I need to put this in everybody's face and I just need to, shout and scream and all that other stuff. No, it just simply means that I respect, love, and admire myself enough to invite you into my truth, because I didn't come out of a closet. I just invited you into another part of my truth. I'm a man that happens to be gay. I happen to be a lot of things. And same gender loving is one of the things that I just love being right now. And so that's what out means to me.
I'm sure some of our listeners or viewers are respectful of that too, and happy that you're same gender loving. Before we go a step further and get to our next question, I want to let everyone know that we do, or let DeMarco know, after we finish with your interview, we have a segment of the show that we call What Y'all Said, and we will answer the viewers' questions. Some of the viewers are sending in questions right now, and if Vash, who is our What Y'all Said correspondent, if Vash wants to step in and take someone's question, he will do that. But we do have a segment that's geared toward asking you questions. All right. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Brent, that was specifically for you because we see your question.
We see your question, Brent. Brent here. We see it. All right.
DeMarco, I have the next question. First of all, I just want to acknowledge you for the amazing role model that you've been and how you've lived your life, and that many other gay athletes now have an opportunity to express themselves and be fully embraced and celebrated for their talent. I know all the amazing work that you've done in the Gay Basketball League. I have a number of friends and colleagues who play in that league, and I know just how instrumental you've been. So major kudos. One of my favorite shows, and when I first discovered DeMarco Majors, it was the MTV series Skins and Shirts. And so I had a couple friends on that show as well. So tell us how you got into the whole acting thing. How did that opportunity come your way? And how did you experience that?
As far as Shirts and Skins is concerned, that was completely real. That was completely real. we had been, when me and my cousin first set out, and okay, and you guys will all see the trailer, probably seen the trailers before if you've watched. I tricked my cousin. I did. He had been in the gay community before me. I didn't know that. But when I told him, I think that I'm attracted to men, he laughed, he screamed, and he said, I have a confession to tell you. I've been doing this for 2 years. And so I looked up gay basketball on the internet.
Wow.
I said, there has to be somebody like me. And so I found this gym, and I told my cousin, I was like, hey, well, we about to go hoop in San Francisco. I heard they got good ball up there. And, this is the address. And he kind of looked at me, but again, he knew that I didn't know anything about the Castro or anything like that. So he didn't think that I knew, but I had done my research. So push comes to shove. And next thing you know, start meeting a few different people there. And we meet Alex Herrera. I become a roommate with Alex Herrera back in 2002. And we used to turn the camera on. Excuse me. We used to turn the camera on and just act up.
Wow.
And just act up. And then we were just like, we're funny. We were a lot of fun. So one of the guys that you didn't get to see in the show because he was in the producer's room in the house, he's one of the Rock Dogs. He started to take the videotapes and send them to Logo. He's like, you guys should start talking about, athletes. What about DeMarco Majors? He's done this. And so we did a trailer. And they were like, oh, this is interesting. But back then, Logo, you could only have, and of course we all know this, you can only have one black show at a time on Logo. At that time, it was Noah's Ark's Go.
Right.
And that's just the truth. It's just the truth of it all.
Right.
It was Noah's Ark's Go. And then when I got the Out Magazine 100 and a couple other things, I didn't know that the conversations were still going, but we had been filming ourselves for years, and they said no. They kept saying no. And then I moved to New York. That's where the acting bug hit me because I never wanted to act because I'm a severe dyslexic. So I was super afraid to miss lines because, again, I'm a Virgo, the perfectionist in me.
Yay, Virgo.
all that stuff can come out. But funny thing, it was J.L. King. J.L. King.
Really? J.L. King in Atlanta?
J.L. King had the Penis Monologues, but then they turned it into a show called Raw.
Yep.
Raw was about 6 black men with their sexually explicit stories. And mine was taking people through the mind of a man that was about to cheat on his wife. And everybody else had weeks to prepare, but I was doing so many different shows and all this other stuff that I had 2 days. J.L. King handed me a 45-page monologue.
Whoa.
I looked at him and I was like, that street mouth was still in me. That street mouth was still in me. So I'm not going to say what I was thinking.
The Indiana boy wanted to come out. The Indiana boy wanted to come out.
Yes. And so I was just like, how am I going to do this? I was so much fear. And then the director and J.L. King started headbutting. And he said, and he was a straight dude. He was like, man, we ain't gonna do this stuff. And he went off. So he wrote like a 3 to 4 page monologue for me. He said, I want you to get up there and I want you to talk for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. You're telling a severe dyslexic person to talk for 10 minutes? I don't know what to do. I got up there. The lights were out. I started dancing. I don't know where that came from. I just started dancing in the dark. And I came out and it was filled with women and the gay men in New York, and it was on 6th Avenue. And next thing you know, I said, I know y'all waiting for the next act to come up from these very experienced actors, and you probably want a story. You want me to talk about something. I ain't got it. Let me tell you, I don't got it. I don't know what y'all came here for. I can tell you a little bit about my friend and what's been going on with him. Let me tell you a little bit about this story. And so I just started talking to the audience. And there was a few people there, Bernadette Stanis and Melissa Ford and, several other people there. And after I went on, and mind you, I talked for 5 minutes. I couldn't do the whole 8. And the next thing you know, it was over. and the crowd was just so in it with me. They started drinking wine and they standing ovations. And by the time I was done, I sat up there and I had ripped up all my clothes. I was butt naked. I said, no more secrets, no more lies. The entire auditorium erupted. Bernadette came up to me and she said, I love your work. How long have you been an actor? And I said, 5 minutes. And she told me she wanted to work with me. So that's kind of how that all took off.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Well, what would you consider to be an iconic DeMarco Majors moment, whether it be in acting or in life?
We're gonna have to mute his microphone, I swear.
We can jump to some of these questions people asking too, but
no. I love that question. I'm a performative introvert. And so what I mean by that is that I'm very introverted. 90% of my time I'm alone. I love being in the house. But when I go out the house, I'm on. And that's why I have to go back and recharge. So one of the funniest and fun moments for me was going to New York on a vacation for 4 days. I go to, I'm walking around by myself, even though my friend, wanted me to come there and visit. And I go to a bar called CLO by myself.
I used to love CLO.
There, I'm listening to the music. I never heard music like this before in my life. I had never seen people like this. It was such a mixed club. People were dancing, the clothing, the music. I had never seen men that looked like that before. I'm just in awe. And then there were 4 more mature Black men that came up to me and they were just like, what's your name? And of course, I'm still in that protective shell. I'm like, DeMarco. They were like, we love your look. I'm like, oh, here we go. They was like, would you like to be in a video? I was like, hey man, I'm visiting from California. I don't want to do porn. Y'all have a good night though, man. And they all started laughing. They were like, no, that's not what we're talking about. And they hand me a piece of paper. The guy said, come here tomorrow. And there was this very handsome, older Black man, with green eyes. He comes up to me and he says, I think you should go. And for some reason, when he said that, it shook my spirit. So next thing you know, I'm on the train and I get to the studio. It's humongous. And I'm texting with my ex at the time and he's cussing at me. And I'm like, I'm about to do this video. I don't know what it's for. He's like, you're lying. You're not doing this and that. And I'm like, I look over. There's this huge, long train of video cameras and people. And all the models that were in there stop. And I'm like, what's going on? I look over. Beyonce is looking at me. Kelly Rowland is looking at Beyonce. Beyonce turns back and goes, he's cute, he's good looking, he's hot. And Kelly goes, mm-hmm. The train goes by, Tina Knoll grabs me and takes me upstairs to change. Hanging out at CLO Club, this is how my life has always been. Hanging out at CLO Club, the next thing you know, in a place that I never wanted to be, I'm doing a video with Beyonce.
And Kelly and Michelle.
I love it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
But what people don't know is that the year before that, they had their Atlanta Experience concert. I was sitting in the living room with all my friends and I said, I'm going to work with Beyonce one day. And they all laughed at me. That's why when I said what I was going to do, they're like, no, you're not, you're lying.
Awesome.
That summer, Freakum Dress came out.
And there you were on the video with Freakum Dress. First of all, I'm trying to suppress my jealousy, but so I'm going to go ahead and ask this next question so we can make sure we get everything in. Okay, so I'm kind of switching the gears a little bit for you. You are a spokesperson and an advocate for HIV/AIDS awareness, and have even been cast as a lead in the commercial for PrEP. Tell us about your involvement to represent this platform.
Wow. Okay. you're taking the new hot seat. I see where we're going here.
Well,
Thank you for that question.
I'll show you something at the after show. Okay.
I knew the editor-in-chief for the old magazine Abercrombie and Fitch.
Mhm.
He started working for the Advocate, HIV Plus, and all that stuff. He was working with this producer. He was like, I need someone, but I preferably like a black man to be a part of this commercial because nobody knew what PrEP was. Only the white gays knew how to get that 28-day pill, but nobody really knew what PrEP was. So they made a mistake by inviting me to a meeting on talking about what is PrEP, and it was in Brooklyn. And I sat there and I listened. I was being polite as I possibly can. And then they said, do you guys have any questions? I said, are you guys marketing to us or targeting us? Which one are you doing?
Okay.
Which one are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at me and they said, okay, we want him in the commercial. So that's honestly, that's kind of how it happened, from just being open and willing to ask questions in that discussion group. But when we got on set, it was one of the most amazing experiences because, you know, the people who were pushing PrEP came and sat down and talked with us, laughed and joked with us, let us put our spin into it, let us be a part of the creation of each scene and just have fun with it. So yeah, that's kind of how that came about. But being someone who's outspoken about HIV, it came because when I was diagnosed, the nurse, this heavy-set black woman, and she looked at me and she said, "You're positive." And this was after I started telling her a little bit about my life and so, because she started asking me questions. She started crying and I started consoling her. So I felt that at that moment, this is what I need to be doing is, you know, don't be afraid of this. Take your medication, start talking about it, because if you don't talk about it, you're going to dwell and it's going to cause more harm.
How about that? How about that? I received that too.
I received that. DeMarco, yeah, again, as someone who is living with the HIV virus, I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for all you're doing to show up in the space to normalize these types of conversations, because it is just a condition. And as people like you who step into the space and really change the narrative, it changes the conversation and it changes the whole dynamic. So again, major kudos to you. But on to a lighter topic.
I've heard this twice and it hasn't happened yet.
I do all the light fluffy stuff. The smart people do all the heavy lifting stuff. So I know you have some upcoming projects coming up. You have a new book, you have some new shows, The Narrative, Higher Love. Tell me, what you're doing in terms of the preparation for that and how you are launching those new projects and how they came about and all the good stuff like that.
Yeah, because you're so light and fluffy. Okay. It's a labor of love, as you all know. It's a labor of love. And it's also, what I'm doing right now is it's kind of a course in understanding how to strategically use your gifts, you know, and that's what I'm doing right now. So what you see in Higher Love was actually supposed to be my show, Light, Living Your Truth Every Day. However, Ronnie Kroll, who was my co-host in it, he was on the TV show Make Me a Supermodel with Tyson Beckford. I wanted him a part of that show, but then I realized that Light should be Black gay men. And so I wanted to do something with him. So we sat down for 5 months and we plotted, we planned, we spoke to certain people. How do we do this? How do we do that? You know, all that really cool stuff that I'm sure all of you know. And so that's kind of how that's been coming up. That's how that's been going, is getting into that space, creating. You got to have your, I'm pointing over here like you guys can see, but just see, feel, and imagine with me. There is there's a vision board here.
I so support that. Okay.
All that good stuff. So everything that you see right here, this is just my 90-day vision board. And so that allows me for the next 90 days to focus, manifest, create, build, and dream in action. because I was never taught how to dream in action.
Right.
I realized I had glorified ideas, but nobody ever told me how to plan. Nobody had told me that there was a strategy to that plan. And it's not that somebody needed to tell me. It just would have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
I got two questions for what y'all said when we get to that, because there's some other questions that we want to get to before we go into what y'all said. So yeah, I'm going to wait. Mm-hmm.
Great. DeMarco, in February of last year, you were featured in a BuzzFeed News UK article titled "How Queer People of Color Are Becoming Addicted to Crystal Meth," in which you candidly spoke about your own personal battles with crystal meth, as well as the loss of your dear friend, Timothy Dean, who, like Jamel Moore, died as a result of an overdose on the drug at the LA home of Ed Buck. Will you elaborate a bit more on how you believe meth magnetizes Black men specifically, and perhaps based on your experience, issue a warning to young Black men who may find themselves in a scenario in which they're being enticed by the drug for the objectification and degradation of their bodies?
Well, all righty. Hold on.
And the seat just gets hotter. I felt the fire on that one. Okay, go ahead.
Like he literally sat up there like he didn't have a hotbed question to ask me. Like he really sat up there innocent.
Yeah.
Thank you, because actually this is in the same vein. A network, a TV show from the UK. I did an interview over that with them yesterday. When it comes to crystal meth, a lot of people say, don't do that. That's a dirty drug, all this, that, and the third. Of course, we all know that. But when you're living in trauma, you superimpose your trauma onto everything. So you don't see with the lenses that you normally would see due to that trauma. And depending on what that trauma is, you end up attaching yourself to emotions and thought patterns. And as you're moving about in this community, that's what attracts you to other people. Some of us, and I'll personalize it myself, what happened to me, of course, it would be easy for me to say, hey, you know what? In the beginning, I was drugged and I started searching for something. But the responsible person in me knows that I did the drug. And then the drug did me. I was living with so much paranoia, fear, pressure. And there was also another part of me that I was hurt. I was hurting. No one really knows that when you're an out gay athlete, they don't know the years of fear of the locker room.
Right.
Fear when you go to a new city or a new state to try out for a team and people go online to read about who was in there, because I was above the rim player. So you're looking at me, I'm 5'11", 6 feet. I got a 47-inch vertical. You're watching me. But then it becomes violent. It becomes physically, mentally, emotionally abusive. So in those spaces, when this happened to me, it played on the emotions that I was addicted to because I had practiced them. And sometimes we don't even like to actually say that out loud, that yes, we blame ourselves for our feelings, because guess what? When I was a little boy, when my mom said to me, don't you stop crying before I give you something to cry about, I learned how to stop emotions. And then what stops with those emotions? It piles up, it builds up. And you put this whole wall around you. Everything in my life was supposed to be fluid. Everything in your life is supposed to be fluid because it was made by God. So all those emotions are supposed to pass through you. This didn't. That's what I would share with other Black men who have succumbed to this. Start working on your journey of what you entertain in your mind and what you dwell on in your mind. Because what you entertain, sometimes we blame ourselves entertaining thoughts and feelings that are not real, but we tend to hold on to that and then take it into the dwelling space, and then that becomes our addiction. And guess what? When you have older white men in this community And I don't want to put the blame on them, but those are the people, that's where it started, because it wasn't a black drug.
Right.
So when the older white man couldn't get the young twink or the young white boy, they started reaching out to the young black man. And then they start pulling in on the strings, like, hey, come and hang out with us. You know, they'll have somebody, a really hot guy, because you're already in a low vibration and somebody's giving you some type of attention that's supposed to be about hanging out. And then you go hang out, and then the people pleaser in you from your trauma paralyzes you, makes you emotionless. You get scared. So you don't run from the door. People offer you stuff. You take it because you're afraid. When you take it, that first puff, that first line, once that gets into your system, it activates and amplifies every emotion within you.
Through the lens of escapism, right? Through the lens of escapism.
Well, and
yes.
And it's also, I mean, you're talking to someone who I'm 62 years old. I have been around the block. I know the impact and the effects of trying crystal meth and knowing what it can do. I have not looked at it in 20 years, but I do know that what DeMarco just shared with us, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely true. And let me add to what he said. Anything that you put in your system that can make you feel better than you thought. All of a sudden you go from, you think that you're going to it's time for you to go to bed, but you do it and you just feel like you could take a building out the ground. You need to put that down. And if you have addictive behavior, you need to get some help right then, because the use of crystal meth is not something that anyone needs to have in their system. So DeMarco, that was a word right there. Thank you so much for sharing that. I will also want to tell our guests, because DeMarco is so fabulous and giving us so much information, we're going to go an extra 15 minutes after the show. We're going to go to 8:15 so we can get the rest of the show in, because we want to hear from you and we want to answer some of your questions, and we want to get through these last couple of questions that we have for DeMarco so we can open it up to you all. Thank you so much, but please don't go anywhere at 8 o'clock. We're going to go for 15 extra minutes because DeMarco Majors is on the show. So, all right. So, okay.
Thank you so much for staying extra time, because this really is a fantastic conversation. We really are covering a lot of ground. So in the last week, Naomi Osaka has really brought mental health to the forefront of our consciousness, especially within the sports community. Can you talk about what your experience has been with depression and mental health? Because this is really a topic that we hold very, very dear here at He Said.
Mental health, and I'm sorry, you guys are going to be seeing me right now. I have to light my sage when I talk about something as potent and as, this conversation can affect people or infect them. And the frequency of your vocabulary, because sometimes we forget that, your sound is your voice is your identity and sound. And so I don't want what I've overcome to infect anybody. So I light my sage. So that's what you guys see in the smoke. Mental health is extremely important when it comes to athletes. And I myself, because I was born with chronic depression, I was born with panic, manic, and anxiety disorder. So when you have those things and you don't have the adult supervision around you that know how to handle that, because they don't see you as somebody that has depression. They see you as a child that needs tough love. You got to go do this, go do that. You get through it. You're a black man. You can overcome this. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Yes, I know that I can do it, but how do I heal from what's the actual thing that's holding me down? Why do I feel the weight of the world on my shoulder? Why do I feel like at 8 years old that if I miss a basket, that I'm not going to be able to buy my mom food, that I'm not going to be able to take care of my sisters? I can't get my family out of the projects. I can't get my mom, away from this person if I miss this layup, if I miss this free throw. So I sat outside to perfect a layup And perfecting the layup meant dunking. Most people thought that I did dunks and stuff like that because it was really about, the showboat. No, I was so afraid of making a mistake that I learned how to dunk because I can't make a mistake in dunking.
Okay.
And that was how depressing mental health was to me. The manipulation, the fear, the intoxicating and provocative parts of depression, because it gave me someone to fight in my head because I was voiceless. When you're young and your dignity is stolen from you because you're going through issues with family and life and all that stuff, and when you're told a child should be seen and not heard, your voice is taken. So you spend more time in your head trying to be right because you were always made to be wrong. And when you go into the sports world, now all of a sudden you go from being a child to being a product. When do you ever get to be a human being? So mental health advocacy is so important to me, not just because of my own experience, but because there are so many beautiful ways to raise a Black child, but Black men don't get the opportunity to understand that we have a full range of emotions. We don't have to just be laughing and extreme anger. We can be everything. So,
okay, all right. Well, look, we have one more question for you, and that's going to come from Jaques. Jaques, so let it roll. And
so our last question. Our last question relates to what you're currently doing, DeMarco. So I just, again, want to acknowledge all the amazing work that you're doing in the transformational space. And I know you and I have had some really great conversations about that. We wanted you to share with our audience about your company, Major Way Strategic Life Coaching, and tell us how we can, connect with you for consultations, what you offer, like everything in that space.
Finally, thank you.
I told you, I got you, man.
Somebody finally told the truth on this panel. We finally got Major Way Strategic Life Coaching was birthed during the pandemic. It was created many years ago, and I didn't even know it. I didn't know it when Google first gave us Gmail, and I created an email, and I put Major Way Incorporated. Just, I wanted to be fancy and I wanted to be acknowledged. You know how it goes. You want some type of, when you're younger, you want to think big and dream big, but that wasn't even a dream. It's just something that I did, and I kept life moving. So it was Major Way Incorporated. The email address was bestcoach77. And I left it alone and just kept living life. Well, I was working for a personal private training studio in Beverly Hills, running it. And I have to, sometimes you just got to pat yourself on the back because they were only doing $27K for 7 years. And within the first 6 months, I moved them from $27K per month to $65K a month, selling nothing but personal training. They were able to go out and tell people, yeah, we do mental health, we do all these other things. And I was just like, they do that. Okay. All right. Y'all do that, huh?
Right.
All
right. No, God, I hear you, God. I hear you. I know you want me to be meek, and I know you want me to I got an attitude, because you told me to be honest. So I got an attitude. And within that attitude, I met my attitude with love. They do get to say that because of you. But you get to say it because of you if you do something about it. So do you want them to be able to continue to get these benefits from you, the gift that God put in you, and you're going to keep using it over here? No. You was built for more. You were made for more. You're playing small right now. And I was like, but this is the pandemic. Well, guess what? We were in essential business, but then we got shut down. And then they asked me to come back. But I told them, it takes me during the pandemic almost $80 there and back because there were no Uber drivers. And so they felt, a type of way. But then I was just like, you know what? I was secretly already finishing up another life coaching certificate. And I said, I built them in 6 to 8 months. We got to choose freedom over security right now.
Yeah.
And that was my conversation, freedom over security, because who's going to need what God has put you through and allows you to come out of? So I had to really, really dig deep and understand that this too shall pass. It was able to pass, so you could pass this on. So I created Major Way Strategic Life Coaching. Thank God I have certifications in healing and trauma. Spiritual development. I use spiritual development to heal the people that have church hurt. Because they're still blaming people for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Before we do that, no, because we have to wrap up, and we have to do that. And DeMarco, first of all, I don't even want to stop you, but you know what? Time. You know how time is. I can't do it because DeMarco. We can talk to you till 9 o'clock, but I don't think NNPA is gonna let us do that. So what I'm going to say to you, first of all, DeMarco, thank you for answering our questions and responding to us. And now we want to get to our viewers because they have some questions for you. And so, Vash, it's all about what y'all said. All right.
Yes, it is. Again, I want to iterate what Alvin just said. Thank you so much for being here. Our audience is loving you. Before we even get into what I like to lead into it, he said, y'all said section. I got to just tell you that Annette Phillips is giving you love. Annette always comes in here and she blesses the space. And she is just giving you love and wrapping you up and wrapping us all up in some love. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you.
And I want to point out that Scott also said that healing and Black masculinity, that this is something that we need to go into more and we need to come back with this discussion. So I'm just going to say it for everybody. I hope you can come back at some point in time and really get into some more stuff with us.
That's right, DeMarco. Okay, that's it. That's right. We're bringing you back. Okay, we're putting you on the checklist. We call that the he said checklist. And we will. Okay, so he said it. You all, it's documented. Go ahead.
He said vision board party with DeMarco.
There you go.
You know what? I think that is absolutely spectacular idea because people have been saying how important those vision boards are. And if you're watching this, whether it's live or later, post some pictures of things that are on your vision board or your vision board, because I would love to see them. And I know that people would like to be inspired by them. So I want to jump back to the beginning because Brent asked a question that was really important. He said, as a DL NBA player has any DL NBA player pulled you aside and expressed respect for you coming out, although the player themselves could not come out? If so, how was that conversation? How'd it go?
Thank you, Brett, for that question. I honestly can't say that a DL player talked to me, but I did have several NBA players and ex-NBA players come and talk to me. I've had some Olympic athletes come to me. Some of the basketball players that wanted to talk to me were afraid to be seen with me, so they went through other people.
That makes sense.
One of the better stories was being out at a club in New York, and Chris Brown sending his entire team over and managers over to get me. I was hanging with Tyson Beckford, and they asked Tyson to tell me to come over and talk to Chris. Chris had just gotten out of court, and he was sitting on this banquette, and he said, we were just, we was down here, he was rolling a blunt, and he's like, hey man, I just want to tell you, he's like, I know who you are, and I know what you're about. He said, thank you so much for everything you do. Everybody thinks that I'm homophobic, but I'm not. My best friend was gay and he died. And he said, I just want to thank you for what you do.
Wow.
And that was a beautiful moment. And then Rihanna walked in. I had to leave at that point because it was just too much. But as far as athletes, as far as athletes back then were afraid to speak to me like that, but they would send people to have these conversations. And again, I get it because I don't want people to have to experience it if they don't have to.
Mhm.
Now, if God ordained it for them to go through it, ain't no way you're gonna get DeMarco to step in the middle of that.
All right. All right.
But I don't want people.
All right.
That's why I'm vocal about it, because if you don't have to go through that shame, you can go through the pain. But if you don't have to go through the shame, let me take that. I got you. Now you don't have to, and you can stand strong.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Very, very nice. So let's jump to manifesting. Because Keith Branch, who is another one of our family members on He Said, as a matter of fact, will you say hi, Keith, just so he has that and can keep that deal?
Hi, Keith. How you doing? I've seen Keith's name around on my social media for years. So how you doing, Keith? Thank you for your support and being around.
Right on, Keith. You're welcome. So
I just got a text message about you too, Vash, from Michael Taylor Gray, I think.
Yes, I talked to Michael Taylor Gray earlier, and he was so excited that you were going to be on. You know, he says you guys know each other, and he was thrilled and just sent lots and lots of support and love your way. So Keith was talking about, as well as some other people, Keith was talking about and really moved by your manifesting, being able to speak what you want, and then have it manifest. Talk about a little bit about that.
This has been manifestation conversation has been the elixir to life for me.
Yes.
There's something in you that you know is true, that you know is powerful. And media, life, social media tells you that you're supposed to think like all of us over here. But it's your nature versus your culture that gives you an understanding of what you are to manifest. So it's very, very important that you work on your vocabulary. And what I mean by that is the way that you were taught to speak and how you learn words. Some of the words you learned from people who were in trauma, people who were in these different places. So when you say those words, they carry a frequency that affects other people.
Yes.
So how you use your vocabulary with yourself and how that is supposed to resonate with you and how that vibrates from you. Because God gives you everything you need. The universe gives you everything you want. And the angels protect you from all harm. And they all work in tandem in the omniverse for your purpose.
I receive that. I receive it. I receive it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it is at that time because time is against us and we have to wrap up. He said, wrap up what y'all said. Okay, what y'all said, but we appreciate your questions, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. We will respond to some of your questions offline once the show is over because we can still see your questions, and we might even have DeMarco to respond to your questions himself. But right now, we have to get to our Black Excellence for this week, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you again for your questions, and we're going to roll right into Black Excellence. Thank you. And I am the guy who's going to actually pay tribute this week. As many of you will be hovering around your television sets on Sunday evening, watching the final episodes of the hit series Pose, we at He Said, thought it might be fitting to pay tribute in our Black Excellence segment this week to the pioneer that made it possible for a story like Pose to be told. Our tribute this week is to a pioneer named Willie Ninja, known as the godfather of Vogue, a dance form with its angular body movements, exaggerated model poses, intricate mime-like choreography, and color characters that he helped, ladies and gentlemen, move from the New York club scene of the 1980s to concert stages around the world, and still happening to this very day. Willie Ninja died on September 2nd, 2006, in Queens, New York, at the age of 45 from AIDS-related heart failure, according to the New York Times. Born William R. Leake in Flushing, New York on April 12, 1961, this 6'3" frame made him a captivating presence. Willie Ninja came to prominence as one of the stars of Jenny Livingston's award-winning 1990 documentary, Paris is Burning, that chronicled the drag ball scene that had originated from African-American communities, especially Harlem, in the 1920s. He began dancing at age 7, and by the early 1980s, he was voguing in Washington Square Park in Greenwich Village at the drag balls throughout Harlem. Willie prided himself on being a clean, sharp dancer with swiftly moving arms and hands, and he was deeply inspired by the martial arts, hence his adopted name, Ninja. As the mother of the House of Ninja, part dance troupe, part surrogate family, he became a New York celebrity known as much for his quick wit and sharp tongue as for his darting limbs. His ensembles, a coat made of braided synthetic hair, a suit jacket with a pair of Doc Martens, I know you all are familiar with that, boots, also turned heads whenever he went. And he called his look severe. Willie Ninja took his moniker from the martial arts inspired movement at which he excelled. He was a pioneer of the club dance form and popularized it along with the balls through voguing competitions and realness impersonation parodies. Through Livingston's film, though, Willie Ninja introduced the mainstream to the culture of houses, collectives of dancers and performers like the House of Ninja, the House of Extravaganza, the House of La Beja, the House of Revlon, the House of Infinity, the House of Aviance, and the House of Milan, and the mothers who nurtured and looked for members for their own houses. In reaching out to the gay youth of color in its prevention work, the Gay Men's Health Crisis launched the House of Latex, which held an annual ball that became one of the organization's best attended and most anticipated events. An androgynous, self-described butch queen, Willie Ninja taught voguing in Europe and Japan. He walked the runways for Jean-Paul Gaultier and Terry Mugler and danced in many music videos. He also performed in works by choreographers Doug Elkins, Dave Newman, Carole Armitage, and is featured in the dance historian Sally Summers' documentary, Check Your Body at the Door. He also taught models how to strut, giving stars like Naomi Campbell pointers for her careers. His body of work influenced the chart-topping anthem Vogue, performed by Madonna. He worked with the socialite Paris Hilton, whose red carpet sachet has since become her signature. And in 2004, he opened a modeling agency, Eon, Elements of Ninja, but he never gave up dancing, appearing in television series like America's Next Top Model and Jimmy Kimmel's Live, dripping and dropping in various clubs, when he could before he passed away. I recall Mr. Keith Boykin, CNN political commentator, New York Times bestselling author, and former White House aide, who recognized Willie Ninja's social stature and influence in a blog in 2006 that said, "If you don't know Willie Ninja, you should know Willie Ninja." Boykin further wrote, "He helped to influence Black gay culture and left a lasting impression for generations to come." Emmanuel Xavier, a poet and performer, responded to Willie Ninja's death by recirculating a poem called Legendary. Ever heard of that? From the Bullets and Butterflies, queer spoken word poetry, which he initially wrote to honor Pepper LaBeija, another star of Paris is Burning at the time of her death in 2003. This is how the poem went. "There are gods among us in these ghettos, so black, so fierce, so black, so beautiful, so brown, so fierce, so brown, so beautiful. Watch them carefully, though, and say your prayers as they enter the ballroom. Angel wing feathers decorating skin, recrafted over silicone and martyred colors." An old friend of Willie Ninja said, whose name is Archie Burnett, said that if Willie Ninja ever saw someone doing something on the dance floor that he loved, he would walk up to them and say, "Ooh, child, You are fierce, okay? And that was the highest form of compliment that Willie could give you. I'm going to close the my tribute by saying I had the opportunity of working with Willie Ninja in the early 90s when I produced one of my first shows for DIFA, the Design Industry Foundation for AIDS. And I was a newbie to it. And Willie Ninja and I had to choreograph a fashion segment that included the House of Ninja. I was on pins and needles, but Willie Ninja came up to me and said, "Ooh, boy, you are fierce." And so it has made my day. So, ladies and gentlemen, the He Said team would like to honor for our Black excellence this week none other than the one and only Mr. Willie Ninja, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, guys. Indeed. Thank you for that. Yes. Thank you.
And I have to say, on the first episode, on the first season of Legendary, I thought the House of Ninja was unbelievable. Those cisgendered women carried his name and his legacy to a place where I still think that the children are trying to catch up on that show.
Wow.
DeMarco, what you know about Vogan? You belong to a house?
Yes. Back in, I believe it was 2012. It was 2012 or 13. I think it's 2012. I went through the whole process, and I've been House of a Garçon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. They're doing well on Legendary right now.
Okay.
They're doing well.
Yeah.
Okay, DeMarco.
Okay.
DeMarco, don't make me call somebody. Don't make me do that.
Call Father Michael.
Okay, you're gonna make me call somebody. But look, before we sign off, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank everybody, but I want to give you some news. Next week on our June 11th show, yes, it is definitely Pride Month, but there are some other anniversaries that are happening in the month of June, and we are going to pay tribute or have conversations about Juneteenth next week, which is on June the 19th, but we're going to talk about it next week. And I also want to give you our words of the week. This is from President Obama. When all Americans are treated as equal, no matter who they are or whom they love, we are all more free. Those are our words from the week, ladies and gentlemen. I also want to thank Mr. DeMarco Majors for gracing the He Said stage, man.
Yes.
Thank you, DeMarco.
Wow.
Thank you for having me. I was so excited.
Wow.
Still excited.
I have to give credit where it's due. Jaques has been talking about you for 2 months. And we would tell you know how storyboards go. We're like, okay, we kept looking at the storyboard. How are we gonna do it? But it happened, thank the heavens and the universe that it happened. And and I'm glad that all of this is the whole he said live team on here tonight for you. Okay, so I don't even know when we're gonna get them in the room again. But thank you for joining us, DeMarco. Thank you so much, man.
Yes,
really do appreciate, and your words they will stick with me. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking around an extra 15 minutes for us tonight. We love y'all, okay? And until next week, you all have a great week until we see you again on He Said.
He said.
He said.
He said. We got 4. Okay. You all have a good night, and we will see you all next week. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Night.